Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Thursday, the 20th of June, 2024. This is program number 1199 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can get us at our website, rcistlucia.com. We're also on social media. You can check us out on Facebook. We're streaming live there on the official page of Radio Caribbean International. And so please be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. And if you want to call to make a contribution, to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. You can also message in or call in to our WhatsApp number. That number is 724-0008. Some birthday greetings for today. Going first out to Father Albert Smith, the parish priest at the Church of the Good Shepherd, Babono, and we're wishing him an absolutely fantastic birthday celebration. Hope it's a great one. Also sending birthday greetings to Miss Pearl Jagroup. Happy birthday to you and hope that you're having a splendid birthday celebration. And also to Mr. Tevin Shepherd. Happy birthday to you, Tevin. And we do hope that you're having a wonderful birthday as well. A look at history for the day, and we go back as far as the year 1756, when 146 soldiers, British soldiers, including Anglo-Indian as well as Indian civilians, were imprisoned in a small dungeon in Calcutta in India, where most of them died of suffocation and heat exhaustion. And that became known as the Black Hole of Calcutta. In the year 1840, on this day, an American inventor, Samuel Morse, patented his telegraph. Of course, later on we got Morse code. In the year 1895, the first female PhD from an American university was earned by Caroline Willard Baldwin in science, and that was from Cornell. 1975, Jaws, based on the book by Peter Benchley, was directed by Steven Spielberg and starred Roy Scheider, and that movie was released on this day in 1975. 1987, rugby, the first Rugby World Cup final at Eden Park in Auckland, New Zealand was played, in which the fly-half Grant Fox landed 4 penalties, a conversion and a drop goal, as the All Blacks defeated France 29-9. And in 2020 on this day, the highest ever temperature recorded in the Arctic Circle, 38 degrees Celsius. That's 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And that occurred in Verkhoyansk in Siberia in Russia. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you with the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program. Thanks for joining us here for another day at the Lunchroom. And first, of course, there's a quick mention of the outcome of the match yesterday. Unfortunately, the West Indies was not able to put enough runs on the board against England, putting up a total of 180 for their 20 overs, and it fell short perhaps by a good 20-30 runs to have a really winnable score against the English side, and they were in fact able to relatively easy respond to the West Indies, and in fact ended up winning the match. And of course, we've been seeing a good bit of interest, lots of crowd support. Definitely thousands of St. Lucians came out to the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground yesterday and took in certainly what is still a really wonderful spectacle for all those who were able to enjoy it. I think it certainly has placed the country in a pretty good position in terms of the coverage and the interest at that point. Perhaps not as many English visitors as one would have perhaps expected in the past, in years past. It may be for a lot of different reasons. We're not sure in terms of, in the fact, I think last month's, last data month that we have data for tourism seems to suggest that English arrivals are actually up and have exceeded, as I mentioned, 2019 figures. So that's pretty good, similar to that of the United States arrivals. But they were definitely far, far, far outnumbered, of course, by the local support, the regional support, the West Indies coming out clearly in throngs. It may be that in England right now there are lots of other issues at play. The economy is not doing as well as many would like. We also have the reality of an election coming up. So lots of different factors there. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to actually talk about that English summer election, as it's being dubbed. And of course, it is apparently going to be a landslide victory by all indications for the UK's Labour Party. They've been out for a while. They've been seeing pretty poor performances. Certainly in the last general election, they got quite a thrashing, one of the worst in history. And it looks like now the Conservative Party is lining itself up for one of its worst performances on record. In fact, in that 650 seat parliament and the House of Commons, they are in fact quite possibly only going to be making maybe about 100 seats, and that of course is really a sign of the times, perhaps as well, that one party could have had its best performance in one general election, and then the following general election it's facing its worst performance. It might very well certainly be suggesting the difficulty of governing at this time. Lots of challenges, of course, and this comes at a time when the country just went through this entire process of Brexit, leaving the European Union. Lots of warnings against it, and of course they went ahead with that plan. Perhaps they didn't get the type of agreement that they wanted, but the reality is setting in now, and it is certainly a very challenging situation in terms of being able to appease the voter and to deliver for the electorate. And so it may very well mean that parties are facing this sort of situation where nobody can please the electorate and they're moving from one to the next. Very, very interesting circumstances right about now. And perhaps as well, that may very well be impacting on travel. But let's just see really what the figures are suggesting. So, of course, the tournament continues with tomorrow morning. England meeting up against the likes of South Africa. And next week, Monday, the first in the world playing against the second in the world, that of Australia versus India. That match being played Monday morning here in St. Lucia at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. Now, yesterday, unfortunately, we were made aware of a significant accident on the John Compton Highway. And one can perhaps also say a very reckless accident at that, in terms of the cause in question. That section, of course, of the John Compton Highway is pretty straight, and it finds itself in with certain uses alongside that highway, including that of the Camille Henry Memorial School. And unfortunately, from what we've heard and what we're seeing coming out of the footage and all of that, it appears that a bike owner, motorcycle operator, cyclist was popping a wheelie, and that involves raising the front of the bike and having that motorcycle go along on one wheel as far as he can perhaps achieve. And we've been seeing a lot of this type of activity on our highways, on our roads. Sometimes we even see them trying to do so, not even on a straight road, but even along bends at times. Now, our highways are, and we can even use that word very, very loosely, because they're not any grand highways by any stretch of the imagination. They're tremendously limited in terms of design, in terms of the capacity, in terms of even the safety afforded to motorists and pedestrians. And so taking those kinds of risks already in a situation where we're faced with a lot of traffic, because this is one of the most heavily utilized highways on the island. So this is not a country lane. This is not an area where you've got very few people around. And so therefore, it is highly irresponsible for individuals to be, in the first instance, of course, taking the risk of those types of stunts, which are endangering their own selves. And unfortunately, even especially with the situation with motorcycle users, very, very many of them are not equipped with the necessary protective gear. They especially are not equipped with helmets. And so they're putting their own lives at risk. And perhaps some may unfortunately believe that, well, if they're doing it out and in some place with nobody around, and that's their business, right? But you're doing it on a public thoroughfare, a thoroughfare that we all have to share, that we all have to cooperate and utilize responsibly. And that kind of activity, we're seeing it far too often at this point. But unfortunately, yesterday it appeared to be a major cause or contributing factor to injury of young people, young school children in our country. Now, of course, I do take the point that, and we've had this debate in this country for a very long time about the location of certain facilities and institutions and all of that. That's all fair. But at the heart of it all, we know the limitations, and so therefore it means that we've got to be far more responsible in terms of how we utilize the road. And this type of situation, I think, needs to be clamped down. We've seen a plethora of motorcycle motorcycles being brought onto the roads. I'm sure the police will suggest as well, in very many instances, far too many of them are in fact not properly registered. They're not. They have been brought into the country unknown through back channels, all sorts of ways, illegally. Some of them, in fact, are potentially even stolen from other islands. But they're on our roads, and they are unfortunately being utilized far too often recklessly on these roads. And so this is a major issue, because I don't think any one of us would want to be in the position of the parents of these children today, knowing that, of course, their children are now at hospital. They are suffering serious injuries. They are, I mean, this is a real nightmare scenario for parents at this point in time. And of course, it's not just the parents of those afflicted, because these children would have had classmates, they would have had schoolmates who themselves are going to be certainly stricken by the psychological impact of knowing what has happened to their peers, to their mates. And so that's not a very good situation, of course, for the institution and for everybody else. And so we have to be definitely thinking about road safety. And road safety, part of it is, yes, about good planning. We've got to think about the planning aspects in this one. Yes, and I mean that particular school, of course, is placed in a very difficult situation. It's right next to a major highway, so we've got to be thinking about the traffic trying to get out and into the city, and that's certainly a major concern. And that's a reality. I mean, from an economic perspective, it's a artery. It's a major means for moving people back and forth. That conduit is very important, and so we know what has happened in the past. You know, in some situations we just decide, well, you know what, we're going to have to put in speed bumps or something of the sort. Now, I don't think anybody wants to see the introduction of speed bumps, but unfortunately, in the situation that exists there, you actually don't have too many options, because, for one, you also have the reality that you've got an airport right next to it. And so perhaps what has been done in other parts of the highway, like near the Sarah Simmons Secondary School at Vidboutet, or in the Bizet Junction area, or in the Castries Comprehensive Secondary School, where we've seen incidents happen in the past. But thankfully, in those areas, there has been the opportunity to actually introduce pedestrian footbridges so that people can, in fact, get from one side of the highway to the other. And, of course, in many other areas. But that area in particular, on that highway next to the airport, not too sure that that would be something that could be approved due to the issues of even height restrictions regarding, and of course, just the space constraints that exist there right next to that George Charles Airport. And maybe, hopefully, in the long run, we would realize that this might just be another good justification, either for, well, one of those things has to be shifted, right? Either the dealing with the issue of the school or dealing with the issue of the airport. And so those are some of the challenges that we actually, of course, facing when it comes to trying to protect ourselves from these types of situations. Because, let's face it, yes, it was a bike in this instance, but there are lots of people who are, of course, going to be going up and down that highway at high speeds. And merely a pedestrian crossing is not the best option perhaps for that area. So, but something has got to be done, especially given especially around school time, school dismissal time, and school arrival times. Some sorts of controls need to be put in place, perhaps in the short term, to begin dealing with this. And of course, it could involve putting in warning lights and some other forms of traffic curbing to try to get traffic to slow down. But at this point, it's perhaps one of the things that's, of course, simply going to make it a little longer in terms of your commute, in terms of how to deal with this current situation that exists. Unfortunately, we've seen the impact of it, and it means, therefore, that we've got to be thinking in the long term, because, of course, who knows whether we might very well see this type of activity continuing. It also means, of course, in my view, that there has to be some serious looking at the whole issue of motorcycles and their proper use, their responsible use. It may very well mean, we've got defensive driving for individuals, but is there stuff that we've got to be looking at specifically about motorcycle users in this regard? And so I think we've got to be very, very serious about this, because nobody wants to see this really occur again. That's our dish of the day. And when we come back, we'll take in our weather report and then head into perhaps taking some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also black, that's why and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Grozile, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
That's all, of course, on the 1.4. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 20 miles per hour or 31 kilometers per hour. The weather fair, skies becoming cloudy at times with a few brief showers. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles. Fair skies becoming cloudy at times with widely scattered showers. And the tropical weather outlook. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate light to moderate easterly winds across the eastern Caribbean region during the next couple of days. A weak tropical wave located just east of the Lesser Antilles is moving westward near 15 miles per hour or 24 kilometers per hour. This wave is expected to affect mostly the extreme southern portion of the region later today. Two other tropical waves located over the central and eastern tropical Atlantic are moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home. Really? Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle-dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath
Smith, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
Welcome back to our program here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. You also have the option of messaging in via WhatsApp. That is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. And of course, we have been speaking about the matter of road safety. And that's unfortunately one of our major killers, that of road accident fatalities. And we're seeing quite a lot of accidents, of course. Now, the exact statistics on it, looking back, we can well imagine that there are different metrics that people use to measure this, and it may have it looks at things like the number of vehicles on the road, and so accidents per vehicle ownership, or accidents per miles driven, which of course is a lot more difficult to calculate, because you've got to look at each vehicle and overall utilization. So a lot of these various metrics, which are very important to assess how safe one's roads are. But let's take in a call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, afternoon caller. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Since you say they cannot have a pedestrian bridge like the one they have by Capri and Sierra because it's too close to the airport, why don't they do like the real world? Why don't they have school wardens? I know they have security, but what about school wardens to make sure during the hours? Because it's a factory, and we'll have to cross that road to take a grocery bus.
And that's my point, caller, exactly. So that if it's you have to manage it, and it's done in other schools too. I mean, with the case of the what's it called, the Dame Paulette Louise School on the Union Postlewaite Road. There's
job opportunity too, because
of course.
Road wardens for the schools, and does the train have to? There's no thing about it. They have to cross, and if there's no one to guide them, and those bikers seems to have no kind of conscience.
Well, and in fairness, it's not just the bikers, because remember, people are going to be. It's a straight road. People are going to take the opportunity. They see it's a straight road. They're going to speed up, right? So it needs to be properly managed. Definitely.
And also, if it's possible, then for the buses that are going up north, since they are train going up north, they could come through the Sanssouci area and come closer to the school gate.
You're speaking, well, yes. That might be a little more challenging, though.
What's that?
I said that might be a little bit more challenging because then you're asking them to come in, turn in, and then to go back out.
No, instead of coming straight up the road, you just take the corner by the bridge by Serenity Park there.
Oh, you want them to come through? Okay.
Serenity Park, that road that leads you, and you just come by Wasp, and you just pick up, and you just back on it, turn, go around about the roundabouts, and just go your way. Because maybe these things can happen, because there's no stopping it. Children are going to be crossing that road.
Right. And this is I hope that perhaps the Parents Teachers Association and the school certainly, makes a point to, not to just simply go back to a status quo situation. It really definitely requires, some action in this regard. So in terms of, like I said, there are a number of things that could potentially happen that may not still be the ideal, but at least would, give some much greater comfort in terms of that particular situation that exists.
It's not any wardens, train wardens, maybe even get the training so that it will be easier now for them to get. Because you just want between the hours of that 2:30 and maybe around 4 o'clock, because sometimes children are still going, you just need that kind of thing there.
Yeah, but also in the mornings too, because that's
mornings too, because mornings, yes. But I hope somehow maybe the parents, the PTA, the teachers, and everybody come together and see how they can come together and make this happen.
Yeah, and perhaps try to engage the relevant agencies, the Ministry of Education on this one, of course, and the police, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, because I think the entire, John Compton Highway, Castries Grosley Highway, Julian Hunt Highway, that entire corridor needs some active traffic policing. We need a highway patrol. People, like I said, today it's yesterday was the gentleman, or the lack of the gentleman, but the guy who was popping the wheelie. Tomorrow it'll be two individuals who decide that they want to be racing to see who can get to Grosley the fastest. You have these types of irresponsible actions that are happening way too often.
Humphrey has something, yes, my niece go their way. They're not supposed to leave the school grounds. The buses coming from Castries have to actually come in to the school. And she tell me there's actually a teacher or teachers even there to make sure. Although they have the bridge, they can cross. But for those that will not, they keep them in there, and then the buses come, and that's when they enter the bus. Only if they have to take a Grosley bus, they have the pedestrian crossing which they can go over. So I think they have to think of all of those things, because that's maybe just the starting of maybe. If you watch the behavior of other people drive, even in the Leclerc area, they have the Vidbutais. Patricia James, and they also have the primary schools. And sometimes there are guys speeding, you see bikes up and down that place there, and their children, and so many of them just walking along the side road there. Some of them have to actually cross on the other side. But, it's like they care less. They care less about the children on the road. It's like they don't even know sometimes their own child or family member of theirs might be walking alongside that road, or maybe trying to cross, because just the behavior of this is not right.
Yes, it's a very unfortunate situation, and but let's hope we can learn some very quick lessons, and let's hope we can also recommit ourselves to looking at how we can improve on road safety, and the entire world is also shifting from this emphasis just on the vehicle, on the car, to trying to do more for the pedestrian. That's another major one, and especially in our case, we have.
Some of us are very careless on the roads, the pedestrians.
Well, yes.
We don't look up, we don't look down, we don't do none of it. We just cross it because we feel it's our right to cross. It's true, we too have our part to play.
Yes. But I was also trying to make reference to the fact that in many instances there's some very critical areas that need sidewalks. And I know it's somewhat difficult in some of these places because the roads, there's not much right of way and things are narrow. But look at the situation with, you just mentioned the Pat James School. And many of these students who are coming from that school, which some people will know as the Vidbutais Secondary, as well as especially the Vidbutais Secondary, you see them along that Vidbutais Road. Right, and after school, and there's no sidewalk, unfortunately. So.
And if you have no sidewalk, isn't there? Can't there have some railing? So at least there's something. They may not have space, but maybe some railing, so you walk to the side of the railing. Something that could show, that there's some kind of safety.
I'm not sure how that would work, but I think there's in some instances there's enough space to put a sidewalk, but it needs to be given consideration at this point.
Been given a consideration for sidewalks in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
I don't find enough for sidewalk. You walk in, you're going down, the cars come and you actually have to go in gutters,
Yes, very good that in fact right now there's a little project going on. To complete a missing link of sidewalk near the Sunny Acres area right now. Yes, so there's a section that lacked a sidewalk. There was a drain, and so they're now actually covering up that drain to provide a sidewalk in that area, which is.
Do a lot more of that all over the place.
Yes, yeah, I think there's some very critical areas where we do know that there's a lot of use, especially with schools around, that you do need to have some sidewalks. I mean, there has been some improvement along that same Calvary Road area, but there's the section into Vibute, the Kaye area there's definitely still need for
and coming, and because I said so once, because usually coming down from the Cleary Church going down John Street.
Yes.
The road there is sometimes is so bad.
Well, you know, caller, we also have to bite the bullet. We also have to bite the bullet and realize that in some instances, some of these streets need to be declared one way.
Yes.
You know, and that's a very short little street. You know that John Street next to the Leclerc Church, and
going down to
it wouldn't hurt too much to make it one way. You know, so I think it should be considered. And there are a number of other areas. You know, unfortunately, look at...
Just Saturday nights, coming from church, walking down the street to go down to Massey. Cars are coming up, and you have to be all in the grass there. And there's sometimes, because my friend that walks with me, big centipede the last time, because you have to go all in the grass, because while cars are coming down, cars want to come up, and some of them don't even want to give way, and you have to be standing there in the grass in the corner there until somebody decides we can give one way to, come down or to go up.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that there are many other instances where that has to happen, in terms of consideration being given to making some streets one way. I mean, there's another...
You have Lazarus who's stuck on the side there. No.
In some instances, you should probably be looking at trying to widen. That's true. But then in others, it's a little bit more difficult. I mean, and I've making reference, for instance, to what happened with the Norbert Road, which has recently been done, the Asu Canal Norbert Road. That road, of course, it's an old road that was in a very, very deplorable state for quite a while. I suppose you could say thank you that it was in fact done. It was... Well, no, it was actually done, I believe, more in response to the work that had to be undertaken with there was a collapsed retaining wall on the Vieux-Sequi Road, right, in the Norbert area. But so in a response to that, they actually did make some improvements on that Norbert Road. But then it is still so very narrow, and it's operating as a 2-lane road right now. Yeah. And I can just well imagine that it's gonna be quite a stress for even the best of drivers.
Maybe make it a one-way.
Well, I think during the construction of the retaining wall, it was designated as a one-way road. But now that has ended, it's actually operating as a 2-way road, and it's pretty difficult for drivers, I can tell you.
Isn't it have to take something to happen? Something for them to think of how they will change the thing. That's all it takes. Sometimes it's just an accident or something bad to happen, and then changes are made. Changes should be made before accidents or anything are taking place. They should have people to see that. They have engineers and all kinds of people, They should have the vision to see what can happen if this is not done, if that is not done that way. It's always after.
Well, they'll tell you that it's not them. It's not them necessarily putting the resources to make them available. But yes, I think it is to make the point, to employ it, to show that, look, these are very critical issues and their implications to public safety, to road safety, to the economy, to have a better, safer transport network. and or networks, and so that's definitely something I think we sometimes have just gone with the flow, and we've just done things very organically in how we've been dealing with our transport network, and I think it's time to realize that it cannot just, things won't just improve this way, because you end up sometimes causing even more problems if you're not doing it to the extent that the improvements have to be made. So thanks very much for that contribution, caller. Have a good one. And of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today is 452-3046. And I think we still have this caller on. I'm still hearing. Definitely still hearing the call for some reason. It hasn't been fully released. No. Okay. But anyways, but it's a major issue in terms of looking at the issue of our roads and road safety, pedestrian safety, driver safety. These are all major concerns, as we're having a situation where 70,000 vehicles on the road. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom. How are you, caller?
It's been a while.
I haven't heard your voice in a while. Yes, good to hear you.
Sometimes you have to get into the contemplative mood.
Yes.
And examining everything. But very quickly, because I know time is always running out, and maybe we could discuss some of the things in more depth another time. But two issues. In terms of cricket and NGOs. On the cricket front, I've been listening to the commentary on the different one days, or whatever they call them now.
T20.
Exactly. But the commentary leaves a lot to be desired. Maybe I'm from the old school, but when cricket used to play, that's where we build our vocabulary. Apart from reading and other stuff, the fellas were so on point. People like Betty Sabadakari, our own West Indian, what was his name? Bijan.
Tony Cozier,
our very own
Red Pereira.
Well, yes, and there was the one before him from Marchand. What was his last name now? He's still alive. And, the fellas had the power of description. Yeah,
people like Tony Cozier, but no.
And the Jamaican, Roy Lawrence. And the fellow, Betty Sabadakari from India.
Yes,
Allett.
John Allett.
And that ball.
Richie Beno.
And how he dissects the field. And we were learning, our vocabularies were being built by just this commentary. The power of description. I remember one time in Dominica when a man hit a ball for 6, he says, Samantri or no Samantri. It is 6 runs by the great Sir Garfield Sobers. And he would say things like, he charges in with all the runs in the bank. And, that kind of excitement I find very lacking in today's commentary.
In fact, over the weekend, over the weekend I was listening to some individuals talk about Lance Gibbs and how John Allett was describing him as a tiger in the gully.
Exactly.
In terms of how effective he was.
And they field placing, they would say where he cut away and in what direction the ball went between the covers and mid. So we understood the cricket game even the more.
Yes.
But now that is gone. I wonder what's happening in the world of cricket commentary. Something has to be done to improve this. And you knew more about the game. They would give you statistics. Who's the highest scorer. They said he charges in. The wind in his tail. I mean, these guys were just marvelous.
Yes.
And how much we learned about the game. I could go on and on, but I just want to flag that.
It's a very, very important point, in terms of the literature. I mean, I guess the times have changed because a lot of that was through radio, where people didn't have the benefit maybe of an actual viewing of the game.
No, but even when you watch it and a man hit a ball, it doesn't say if it's on the onside. You know what I mean? So you understand the game a little better, especially if you're a novice. I mean, we used to stay up all late hours when we played the West Indies played in Australia.
Somebody who's rather brilliant of it, I hope he doesn't mind if I mention his name on air, but Mr. Birch Smith, he has a remarkable ability of recollecting cricket commentary that occurred back in the 1960s.
Okay.
Word for word. As to
Yes,
how
man.
these things
But
were described.
all of us young fellas,
yeah.
Alex, that was our forte, man, to imitate these fellas, man, and to, especially when you had people like Tony Kozia, with a lot of excitement and oh God, for these days. But anyway, enough of that. We'll talk about that another time when more voices come in, because time is almost gone. The other thing I want to explore next time is what's happening to our NGOs in St. Lucia. They are vital, they are important, but it seems as though NGOs need some kind of accountability to we the people, because they're using taxpayers' money, and to me they have a free ride, and we are hearing nothing about how can they account for the monies that they are getting. I'm not seeing anything substantial coming out of the NGOs. I won't mention names today, but when we have a chance to discuss it in total, I would like to discuss that thing, the importance of NGOs, and more importantly, the accountability of NGOs towards the people of St. Lucia, because they're getting tax-free monies, and they need to account. We need to know what's happening in the bosom of the NGOs. And I'm even calling for government to audit the NGOs at specific times to know how our money is being spent within these organizations.
Very important point
for today, but we'll continue that discussion.
Thank you. Thanks for that, caller. Of course, certainly. And I mean, we appreciate the importance of civil society in really defining and supporting the development of countries. And in fact, in some places, there's been this move by multilateral agencies and the Bretton Woods institutions to try to get partners for development in many places where they say they don't have the confidence that the state can actually deliver on various services and projects and programs for the population. And so the idea then is, well, let's work with NGOs. And then, of course, that too can be somewhat difficult because, and you're right, they have to account for the utilization of resources. Let's take in a call. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
It's me again. I just remember the Martian commentator, Irvin Henry.
Okay.
I just wanted to flag
Not
it.
familiar with him.
Right.
Okay. Thanks
Go back to your thing.
Thanks very much for that, caller. And so that issue of NGOs is certainly very important, and the work that they are doing. They sometimes can, in fact, get lots of resources from these external agencies and entities. But it's, of course, has to be provided with oversight, and then the state does have that responsibility, ironically enough, of ensuring that the grants and transfers that they are making to those entities are delivering on what they are saying that they should be up to. It should not be this sort of a battleground. It should be not an acrimonious sort of situation, because I would think that all NGOs will suggest that, in fact, they do need more support, not less, but it has to be effective. And in all spheres, there has to be a degree of accountability in this regard. We made mention, I think, of it day before yesterday, but not in the context of the anniversary. Oh, yes, we did make mention of it yesterday as well. The anniversary of the Castries fire of 1948. And June 19th and 20th, 1948 were the dates of the Castries fire. That was one of perhaps maybe the fifth major fire in the Castries, and it was a redefining moment in terms of the town of Castries. The town up to that point was pretty contained within the original grid, that had been set up by the French going way back to the period of the 1760s. And it effectively changed the city in very many different ways. It was seen after the aftermath of the fire, there was this desire for expanding the town, and there were plans before that, of course, to do so. But it of course, was somewhat forced upon the situation and expanding it into areas such as La Clery, for instance. That was one of the major ones in response to that, and later on Sanssouci and Entrepot. But in terms of the downtown, that was, of course, a major shift in terms of the layout of the town. You would recall that Castries was effectively a grid, right? And it was made up of, blocks with streets that were effectively meeting each other at right angles. And so you had originally roughly six major east-west streets, because the town was really oriented along an east-west axis from the perspective of you coming into the town from the seaside. And so those longer east-west streets from the river, starting off with Brazil and then Mico, and then you had High. Then after that, you had St. Louis, and then Victoria, and then Jeremy. Those east-west streets were then intersected by these north-south streets. So you had Manuel, which was closest to the Western Wharf, the most westerly street, and which was in fact at that point really the heart of the town, the Prince Alfred Basin, finding itself right there at the intersection of Manuel Street and Mico Street. And then you went east of Manuel to Monjero, and then Bridge, and then Bourbon, and then Corporation, and then Pena, and then Labrie, and then Pena. And then you had Brogley, Coral, Chisel, and then meeting this diagonal street, which was a sort of a boundary line for the downtown, that of the Chaussee. And that grid got completely changed up in the aftermath of the 1948 fire, based on a plan that had been developed then by a Trinidadian architect by the name of John Anthony Lewis, as well as Mr. Rose, who was in fact also the architect from for the Windward Islands. He was actually a Jamaican gentleman, and they came up with a new plan for Castries, which saw the certain improvements as they were seen at the time, of course, including the widening of Jeremy Street, because Jeremy Street was seen as the major street if you're coming from the Chaussee, from the north, and that would be the main street for commerce, as well as then Bridge Street. And so Jeremy Street was widened, Bridge Street was widened at that time, creating a broad street at that point, because this was the main route heading south towards the Mon, and then to the south of the island. So that was widened. And then you saw the creation of a commercial center around the boulevard, William Peter Boulevard. So that was a new introduction. And so a number of the streets in that area were in fact then sort of closed off from being these long streets. They then ended up creating these little sort of loop streets, or crescents, if you like Westall and Cadet at that point. And of course, the major introduction of public housing at the what is now we call the CDC, the Colonial Development Corporation, which came in to finance this reconstruction of the city of Castries, the town of Castries. They, in fact, were the financiers for that project, and investing in things like the CDCs, which we still have the name for, But of course, the realignment of the roads at that point, the construction of new facilities such as the government buildings, which is now the Parliament building, the High Court building, which is now in the process of being demolished, the fire station, which has since been demolished as well, police and fire station near the wharf, the customs building, the customs house at the northern end of Bridge Street, facing Jeremy, that junction there, that was built during that period of time as well. And so a significant amount of change was introduced in terms of the layout of the town of Castries. Perhaps we'll have to have a bit more of a look into that in a subsequent show. But because we're out of time here on the program, we do hope that you had a good one, and we'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program. I'm your host, Alex George Jr., saying goodbye.